I think most of you know that Spire is only 3 years old. We just finished our SREC conference, which you may hear a little more about today. And we have over 1,200 members now, which is pretty good for a school that doesn't have a real estate course, which we're going to change. And I would like to introduce a few people first. Pat Orozco, David Butler, is David Knowles here, and all those people who started this group. If they'd stand up for a minute. Pat, where are you? Give them a hand. Probably the person who has basically, I think, developed and devoted his life to getting this thing started is our president, Chad Hagel. I told Malin that Chad does the work and I take the credit. So Chad, if you want to come up and start the program.
Well, to echo what Sam said, he says I do all the work and he takes the credit, but the reality is that the amount of credit I get these days is completely disproportionate with the little bit of work that I have to do, thanks to the dedicated volunteer staff, my fellow members of the board of directors, our volunteer leaders around the country, the student leadership, which is represented here by Aspire, the GSB Real Estate Club, the Stanford Law School Land Use Group. All of these organizations have really come together to give Spire a life of its own, and in particular, our administrative staff with Spire as well. Ashley Means, who is often in the background and never acknowledged enough, and Andy Wahlberger, our executive director of the organization. All of these volunteer leaders and our staff certainly deserve a huge round of applause for putting all of this together and making everything that you see here tonight happen. So thank you very much to all of them. And please, as I'm speaking, please go ahead and commence your meal. I won't consider it rude. We actually need to advance the program through tonight, so we're not here till midnight. We have a lot to cover tonight. In our third year, as Sam was saying, and in the second year this is our second annual Stanford Real Estate Weekend, which is highlighted by this event, the Stanford Real Estate Honors Banquet, as well as the SREC conference, which took place over the past 2 days. For those of you that don't know, the SREC is a real estate council that was formed by Spire that is made up of some of the top executives in the real estate industry. We formed that group at the urging of many of our board of governors and some of our highest ranking members a couple of years ago. And that group has come to represent the best and the brightest of Stanford real estate. And I'm tremendously gratified by their presence here tonight and tremendously gratified by the support that they've shown for Spire and the dedication and the quality of the programming and the quality of the group of individuals that we've had the opportunity to interact with over the past couple of days. It's been a phenomenal experience. That organization represents only one facet of what is going on here with Spire and in terms of the Stanford real estate presence. You'll hear more tonight, and I want to give you sort of the outline for the evening. The program is structured really to focus on the past, the present, and the future of Stanford real estate. We'll focus on honoring those luminaries and pioneers of the industry. This year, our 2 Hall of Fame honorees, Henry Segerstrom and Malin Burnham, and we'll move on to talking about some very exciting programming, initiatives, research that are going on here at Stanford right now and highlighting the real estate presence that is here at the university today. And then we'll be focusing on some initiatives for the future to really showcase and enhance the real estate offerings here at Stanford and to make sure that they are competitive with and ultimately excel well beyond any program that exists in the country, which is the ultimate vision of our organization. So again, I appreciate all of you being here tonight and sharing this wonderful evening with us, sharing the honors and tributes to our great honorees. I'll invite you to enjoy your dinners, and we'll resume the program in just a few minutes. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying your entrees. Please continue eating as we continue with the program. And in addition, please continue drinking. There is an open bar over there, and I don't even see anyone over there. The evening will go much smoother if you drink more. And I'll get a lot more interesting, too. I'd like to just share with all of you the experience we had in Southern California at the first installment this year of the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame induction banquet. Was hosted graciously by Henry Segerstrom and South Coast Plaza at the West and South Coast in Orange County. It was a remarkable evening and consisted of not only the honors of Henry and Malin, but we also paid tribute that evening to someone I'd like to just mention briefly here tonight. If you look in your program, you'll see a memorial tribute to Don Kennedy. Don passed this year. He was a graduate of Stanford in political science in 1940 and played on the NCAA champion golf team while he was here at Stanford. But Don is most known for going on to found Fidelity Title and the offices in Southern California in particular, which he grew to be a Fortune 500 company. And it's First American, which is what the title company came to be known as, based in Southern California, grew to one of the largest title companies in the world and really changed the definition of what title insurance was and how that industry operated. He's truly a pioneer, and his son Parker paid tribute to him in Southern California. So I invite you to look in your program and read more about Don Kennedy, who's truly a pioneer and luminary of the industry. The other two gentlemen that we have the benefit of honoring this evening, Henry Segerstrom and Malin Burnham, I think both share some common traits. And I'll highlight a couple of things as we talk about each one of them in terms of their specific bios. But I'd like to talk about both of them together because to me there's a common theme that runs within their lives. And that is the theme of not only being focused on their core career in terms of developing real estate, but also developing the world around them in a meaningful way. Each of them had a passion, each of them had a dream, and each of them focused on what their passions were in addition to achievement within the real estate industry. We'll focus first on Mr. Segerstrom, who, as we said, unfortunately, due to his health, was not able to join us up here in Northern California this evening. But Henry is most known as the founder and the visionary behind South Coast Plaza. If those of you that haven't had the opportunity to travel down to Orange County, I would invite you to come down and see what is really a marvel of vision, not just a marvel of development, because it literally was an avocado field owned by Henry's family and ultimately developed into one of the greatest retail destinations in the United States and around the world. And beyond South Coast Plaza and the vision of that shopping destination, Henry really transformed the landscape of Orange County. And the way he did that was by creating a new vision for what Orange County could be and raising the bar for what the vision of Orange County was, bringing culture, investing in the arts, founding the Orange County Performing Arts Center and serving on numerous boards, and truly transforming the world around him to being a culture and not just being a destination. And I'd like to share one discussion that I had the honor of sharing with Henry, where he explained to me the genesis of South Coast Plaza, and then we'll hear from some people who know Henry even better in the video tribute to him, and then we'll hear from Henry himself. So I'll pay what little bit of due attention I can before turning it over to the video so that you can see others' perspectives on Mr. Segerstrom. But what Henry shared with me is he said, think of Southern California. He said, think of its parts. He said, think of Los Angeles, think of Orange County, think of San Diego. Those of you that may come from any one of those communities know just as I do, as an Orange County resident, that there are pluses and there are minuses. Every one of those communities has its strengths and weaknesses. But when we take a step back and look at it as Southern California, we think of the Beach Boys and dreams and the wonders of California, and it creates a vision of a united front and united concept that is easy to sell to the world. And that was Henry's vision, is turning a small avocado field in Orange County into a destination of retail, culture, and events that define Southern California and put it on the map. And to me, that power of transformation is one of the gifts that we in the real estate industry have if we can apply it properly. I'd now like to turn it over, as I said, to the video tribute to Henry, which will show you much better perspective on what he's accomplished in his life and in his work, and some of the people whose lives he's touched along the way.
I think there are 3 or 4 sort of godfathers of Orange County, and probably number 1 is Henry.
People think day by day. People don't think in 40, 50, 100-year spans. And Henry does, I'm sure of it.
I would think of Henry as a very kind, very brilliant man.
He defines for me what a visionary is.
Henry and I had little toy cars that we would play with, kids, little tiny metal ones. For some reason, I don't know, I took a car and tossed it at him. Maybe I thought he was going to catch it, but I think it hit him in the head. And I was teasing. I said maybe that's how he became such a visionary.
My grandfather came here in 1898. There were 15,000 people living in Orange County. Imagine 15,000 people. That wouldn't be enough to fill the Coliseum in Los Angeles. So we went through 15 years of agriculture where our family purchased small pieces of land here. My grandfather told his boys, he said, just buy land because they'll be selling standing room in Orange County someday.
They were bean farmers way back in history. When his mother was still alive, I'd come to visit him here, and he always came and visited, but the first thing he did was go talk to his mother, because he was a business person too.
I was in my junior year at Stanford when Pearl Harbor hit. My life changed very abruptly. I went on active duty on my 20th birthday when I was 20 years old.
His experiences as in the service, it had a tremendous impact on his life because he was badly, badly injured. He was filled with shrapnel in his back, and he was very ill. So he spent many years in a hospital. And I think, that gives you a different perspective on life.
I had a long series of operations. I had osteomyelitis for 50 years. Can you believe that? Before they finally cured it. It was after the Performing Arts Center opened.
In the performing arts, the building of that, and putting that together, and I was just amazed at his tenacious way. But what most people don't know, that well, this early on, before that started, he was already going to back east to New York and cultivating all these different associations and people and different artists.
I remember on opening night in September 1986, being able to stand up in front of 3,000 people and say, this building is paid for and it's all private money. We had no public funding. And that was really quite remarkable. I was pleased that in 1995, I was elected founding chairman of what is the Segerstrom Center for the Arts. And that pleased me very much. He understands so thoroughly and so clearly and so well the present that he can make intelligent projections that will tend to come true. That's why he was able to gamble his fortune and the fortune of his family on building a shopping center on the Lima Bean fields. He had successfully launched South Coast Plaza against direct competition of Fashion Island in Newport Beach and the Fashion Square in Santa Ana.
As someone he wants to put in the shopping center, he'll be very persistent. You know, and on one of them, he worked with him for 10 years. I thought when they were going to have the shopping center that it would be, middle class, focused to upper middle class. And we have a lot of very high end. I said, why did you do that? Not many people have a lot of money to attend, He said, Ruth Ann, all they need is one sale to pay the rent. Boggles my mind.
It used to be that if we wanted a tenant, we would go to New York or Paris. Today, they're coming here. I mean, it's incredible.
His family believed in what our potential was, and they made an extraordinary gift of land to us, and we were able then to mount what was the first major capital campaign for a cultural arts facility, as far as I know, in the history of Orange County. He genuinely understands the value of the arts. An example of why someone like Isamu Noguchi would accept a commission to do the extraordinary Noguchi Garden that Costa Mesa is blessed to have.
I think that so often we're intimidated by art and intimidated by artists. By and large, the better the artist, the more they're looking for a relationship to help them with new projects. So I happened to be there at the right time with several.
He has developed schools, parks. He sees development as a fully integrated set of many things that enhance people's lives.
Henry will be remembered not only as a great individual citizen of Orange County, but a real visionary, one that took various separate elements of architecture, of fashion, of the performing arts, and combined them together to give a whole that was bigger than the sum of its parts.
I think that I've been very fortunate. I've had good support in my family. And I think everyone is very proud of what we collectively have accomplished. I love to accomplish things.
You gotta love that winning smile. We'll move on and show you a clip of Henry's acceptance speech from the South Coast Plaza awards ceremony as well.
I would like to say thank you. I think this is an unusual opportunity for me to say thank you to my immediate family and to their children, to my sister and her children, to all my relatives and their offspring. We have a wonderful family and we enjoy each other. What one accomplishes in life is never solo. It takes the cooperation of people who have similar ideas and hopefully similar talents. So I want to say thank you to our family and to the professionals and associates that we have in our organization. The Daily Pilot recently, I guess a couple of years ago, said that South Coast Plaza is the strongest factor in determining lifestyle in the southern Orange County area. The reporter called me and asked what I thought of it, and I said, well, we're number one. We like to be number one. And we're going to continue to be number one. But to bring us back to Stanford again and to Parker Kennedy, I told Parker something tonight that he wasn't aware of, and that is that his mother and I were in the same class at Stanford as freshmen. That also brings up the fact that an unusual circumstance. In 1940, there were 6 Segerstrom members of our family registered as students at Stanford, either undergraduate or graduate, and 3 women who were destined to carry the name Segerstrom, which meant there were 9. I don't think that that's ever been equal or duplicated. So Parker, I hashed for your mother when I was a freshman to make money to go to the movies. Well, it's a thrill to receive this honor, and I know all of our Stanford alumni here are breathing a happy sigh of relief. We win some, we lose some. I won't say more than that. But truthfully, Southern California is a remarkable area. And remember, South Coast Plaza intends to remain number 1. Thank you.
Truly remarkable. And I admire, and I think that Henry really stands for one of the tenets of our organization, which is really focusing back here at Stanford and giving back to Stanford. And you heard his commitment to Stanford, his family's commitment to Stanford, and how much Stanford runs in his veins. And it's something that I've always admired of him and of many of the great benefactors of this university. And I think a reflection of that is that the people that will turn out from the university to pay tribute, honor, and respect to those individuals and recognize the commitment they've had to the university. One of those people who is here this evening to accept on Henry's behalf his award, re-accept his award for induction into the Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame is a former dean of the GSB. Dean Bob Joss is here this evening, who served as dean from 1999 through 2009 and was very close to Henry during that time and Henry's support of the GSB and of the university as a whole. So I'd like to invite Dean Joss to come up, accept this award, and provide a few remarks regarding Henry. Bob, thank you.
Well, Chad, thank you very much. I talked with Henry today, and he, of course, is very disappointed that he couldn't be here. I'm really honored that Henry would ask me to be the person who would accept for him in Northern California. You saw he was in good spirits in Southern California, and I'm glad you had a chance to see that clip because it says a lot about Henry, his competitive spirit, and how much he cares about 2 things in his life. Well, 3 things, really. His family, obviously, number 1. South Coast Plaza, which is right up there, and Stanford. And I think that all came through very, very nicely. You know, Henry, as you saw from the film clip, was an undergrad at Stanford. Then he went off to war. And he came back, ultimately was, after all that hospitalization, and he was in our business school. He was a member of the class of 48, which was quite a famous class. Steve Bechtel and Dave Tappan, just to name a few that have been honored by our school. And so Henry has that dual loyalty to Stanford, both as an undergrad and as an MBA graduate. He's been particularly interested in our school over the years in nonprofit management, in the management of social and nonprofit enterprises. And I think you can see his tremendous commitment. I'll tell you, that Segerstrom Center for the Arts in Orange County is just spectacular to behold. Those pictures, the architecture, the vibrancy of the community there, what they brought to Costa Mesa and to Orange County is just, you have to see it to believe it. And so the management of the arts in the best possible way and bringing the arts to management has been a passion of Henry's, and he's helped us with that over the years. 60 years after his graduation from the business school, we honored him with the Ernest C. Arbuckle Award, which is the highest award honor that we give at our school to an alum. We've only done it about 42 times. So Henry was here in 2008 to receive the Arbuckle Award, and that was a great pleasure for us to recognize him that way. But I know this Spire Award that you have honored him with, both in Southern California and tonight, means just as much to him. He's very touched by that, and asked me if I would please come and convey that and his thanks. There's nothing that delights him more than to share this evening with Malin, two incredible Southern California real estate legends. And as they said, you know, the guy was such a visionary. He still is. You've got to go to South Coast Plaza. Many of you have probably been there, but if you haven't, you have to see it to believe it. As I said, both the plaza and the Performing Arts Center. And try to imagine it as a lima bean field. It's hard to envision. And of course, then you see there's Henry, who saw it as a lima bean field and yet imagined it for the incredible complex that it is today. And I think that's the true definition of vision. So on Henry's behalf, Henry and Elizabeth, I thank you, Spire, for recognizing him, and it's a pleasure for me to accept on his behalf. Thank you.
So as I said, there's a common theme this evening, and thank you very much, Dean Joss, for being here. There's a common theme this evening amongst these two honorees and the passions that they've shared in their lives outside of just simply their real estate and career pursuits. We turn our attention now to our second honoree of the evening, and we're sitting in his building, so nobody make a mess. I've had tremendous pleasure of getting to know Malin Burnham over the past 2 years. I went to his office the first time to invite him to join the Stanford Real Estate Council last year. And I went in, you know, with my fingers crossed saying, gotta get this guy, gotta get this guy, gotta get this guy. And I found him to be so warm, so unassuming, and so dedicated and committed to the vision of Stanford that it wasn't a sales job I had to do. It was just simply exposing to him the opportunity, and he leapt at the opportunity to be engaged in our organization and to help push our organization forward. And for that, I'm truly grateful. And Malin has done that, pushing forward, his entire life. He's always been ahead of the curve. He's always been a visionary. And his, I would say, dual passions that will come through in what you see in the video and what you'll hear in terms of a tribute to Malin are two things that I've been exposed to. One is sailing. Malin is a sailor's sailor. Sailing is definitely in his blood. You'll hear some of the specifics in the video of his sailing achievements, and just to highlight that from an early age, it was something he was passionate about and dedicated to. And at age 17, he became the youngest skipper to win a world championship in the International Star class in sailing. And I know each of you in the room probably knows as little or maybe a little bit more than I do about sailing, but I've come to know that that's a phenomenal achievement for a 17-year-old at that time or even now. And in 1987, he really played a leading role in bringing the America's Cup to San Diego, and he's continued to dedicate his life to not only the pursuit of sailing, but using sailing as a way to help young people develop as individuals and learn the virtues of life and apply those virtues within their own lives. The other field that Malin has really dedicated himself and rededicated himself over and over again is healthcare and really focusing on research. And he's one of the founders and board member of the Stanford Burnham Medical Research Institute. And when you look at the consortium of schools in the San Diego area that they've been able to assemble, and the work that they're doing in stem cell research in particular, which is truly visionary and pioneering within that field, it even exceeds the magnitude of his vision and his pioneering spirit within the field of real estate. And I believe that the work that's going on here at Stanford as well in stem cell research, and Bob Klein is with us here tonight, who's one of the architects and visionaries of the program here at Stanford, and the program that's going on in San Diego, which Malin is one of the real architects of. I think that these programs are really creating the future opportunity for us as a species and for solving the real health issues that challenge us and providing longevity and quality of life to all of us as we go forward in our lives. And so, as I said, Malin has taken that same vision that he's applied over and over to the field of real estate and transforming the world around him, the built environment, and is now applying it to transforming our lives as we go forward. So with that in mind, I'd like each of you to sit back and enjoy the tribute video for Malin Burnham, and then we'll invite Malin up to the stage after the video. Thank you.
Malin is the most energetic, enthusiastic, undeterred, creative person.
Malin is the ultimate leader, I would say. Community leader, business leader, Stanford leader.
Has always wanted to be number one in whatever he was doing.
He has been a mentor. He has been somebody who has just shown us how you should be a civic leader.
The most important part of my life today, and it has been for the last 25 years, is helping people. And helping people by not doing the ordinary, but attempting to think of different ways and different organizations that I could help start. And if the whole world would believe in community before self, it'd be a perfect place. I learned to start philanthropy at Stanford. I was told as a freshman that my tuition paid by my parents only covered about half of the cost of my education, and that the other half, sooner or later, should come back from me, should I be able to afford it.
So I went to meet Malin, and he kind of grabbed me by the collar and said, "Do I have a job for you?" And he says, I've been running Stanford and San Diego for decades, and it's time for new leadership.
My education at Stanford, and maybe it was because it was in engineering, taught me the most valuable lesson was how to analyze. Looking at something, mainly buildings, mainly real estate in my case, being able to mentally take it apart.
When he was running the John Burnham Company, he had a group of brokers that were well-trained, honest. You could rely on them. That starts at the top. And Malin's still doing it.
We've done some large projects, mostly they're mid-sized projects. We did an industrial park, for instance, in our Poway, the city of Poway in San Diego County, where we moved, for instance, 20 million cubic yards of dirt. That's a big project.
The thing that I like about Malin is, because we're a university and we've got lots of students and scholarship winners, is the amount of time he will take with students in direct eye-to-eye contact, interested in them. He has his own scholarship program, which every year he meets with the students.
Burnham Institute. It's now called the Stanford Burnham Institute. I think that's his pride and joy.
The Stanford Burnham Institute for Medical Research today is composed of about 1,200 staff people. We are the third largest recipient of NIH funding. We have 4 centers of research. Cancer is our biggest.
Malin is a provocateur. for any organization. If he comes in and sees that it's not functioning right, he comes in and helps it to grow.
I remember sitting in a board meeting at San Diego State about the business school. We were on the board together, and we walked out together, and he looked at me and he said, "Dwayne, did you know there's so much going on here?" I said, "No." And he said, "We need to do something about this." The mayor of San Diego reports to Malin Burnham. I think he's just constantly had the city's, everything about this city is in his best interests, and he's very committed to working with anybody to help make San Diego a better community.
There's never a project that he has gotten involved with he didn't think could be completely successful. And I actually admire that. He has really pushed Mexico and our need to be much better about our borders, and we've worked really hard with Mexicans on both sides of the border because we're one community.
I was one of the very early birds in deciding that it would be a great idea to bring the USS Midway to San Diego to make it into a public museum and tourist attraction. It took us 11 years just to get the ship here.
It's like living with the ever-ready bunny. He is on the go constantly, never slows down except about 9:30 at night.
We had a meeting in our office, and towards the end of the meeting, Malin looked at his watch, jumped up and said, "Excuse me, but I've got an important appointment downtown." And I was kind of surprised, and I asked one of his associates, "Where's he going?" He said he has a handball game downtown and he's never late. And that made a great impression upon me. Get your priorities straight and stick with them.
He's the only person I know that doesn't have a cell phone or a computer, completely proud of it, and he is the only person in San Diego who could get away with that.
I started sailing at age 10. My parents had never been on a boat before, so I wasn't following a family tradition. What the junior sailing program taught me was a lot more than just how to steer a boat. I was exposed to what I call my virtues and values, things like dedication, follow through, hard work, never give up, play by the rules. I did win the World Championship in the Star Class, which is I'm prejudiced, but I believe it's the premier sailing racing class worldwide. And I did that at age 17, which has never been duplicated. I would say my second highlight was helping Dennis Conner. We were partners in bringing the America's Cup back to America.
Well, he's totally in love with sailing, but we did have a power boat, and we took it almost all around the world. We had it for 11 years, but over 100,000 miles under the keel.
I have salt water in my veins. I've been around the water, and I have to be around the water to be comfortable and enjoy my life.
Malin plans to be around for a long time, so on his 80th birthday on the Midway ship, he promised me 25 more years.
That takes me out to 105, and I'll take all of my friends over the age of 100, and we're going to the moon to celebrate my birthday.
And no doubt they'll make it. Malin, would you like to come up, please? It's my tremendous honor to present this award for Stanford Real Estate Hall of Fame induction class of 2012 to Malin Burnham.
Chad,
Thank you, Malin.
thank you very much. Well, as it was in Orange County a little over a month ago, this evening is a little overwhelming to me. Therefore, I've penciled out some notes here so that I don't forget some of the important things that I really want to say. First of all, thank you for all of the kind words in the video and so on and so forth, as you've already seen. I would like to start out by thanking Spire founders, of which I was not one, that had the inspiration almost 3 years ago to start this organization. And in hindsight, you all know that Stanford really doesn't have any degree in real estate. There are some courses taught in the business school, but It's a, kind of a happenstance. And so for this organization to get started, and you heard earlier tonight that there are 1,200 members in less than 3 years, for people that didn't study real estate but got into this world and obviously have been successful. My question was, why didn't this happen 20 or 30 years ago? It's such a natural, and it's proven to be. Next, I would like to thank and congratulate Henry Segerson for his award tonight, as I did in Orange County. I'm sorry he isn't here, but I'm honored to share the podium, as it were, and is with Henry. He's done some just great things, as you've seen tonight, and many of you already know. And of course, my dear family, I would not be here tonight without their support and many, many, many decades of encouragement. So, as my #1 fan and positive critic, would my wonderful wife, Roberta, please stand and be recognized? Next, family-wise, by the way, we had a great contingent that came up from San Diego to Orange County to the Segerson Center for our first induction, and some of those people are here tonight, but others were not there. And next in the family portfolio, I would like to introduce my grandson, who is also a Stanford alum, Brian Jones. Please stand. He follows his father as well as his grandfather to Stanford. Two other people I'd like to introduce tonight, kind of special, because I suspect, I know they're here to honor me and support me, but I also suspect that they may be here to learn something about Spire. And I think that's great. Collaboration is the future of this world. So would first Steve Williams stand up and be recognized? Where is he? Keep standing. Steve came to San Diego. Well, first of all, he graduated from UCLA as a public administrator major. And when I first met him was 30 plus years ago in San Diego, when he was with Trammell Crow. And he headed up their operation in San Diego. And the first thing he did when he got there, he asked somebody, who plays handball in this town? And somebody mentioned my name, so we've been playing handball against each other for all these years. But Steve introduced me to the next person that I'm going to introduce. And about 10 years ago, anyway, and that is Lorenzo Barrow. Would you please stand up? Now Lorenzo graduated from Mexico City, where he still lives. He graduated from a technology university as an industrial engineer, the same degree I got here at Stanford. And he started 14 years ago an industrial big box development company, which Steve meant in the year 10 or 11, and invested and is now a director. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because I'm talking about collaboration, really. And so Steve introduced me to the company. It's called Vesta, V-E-S-T-A. And now, in addition to graduating as an industrial engineer in Mexico, Lorenzo also went to Harvard Business School. And I suspect these two guys are here tonight, among other things, to figure out how they can get a Spire going in their universities. Now, I figured out a name for Lorenzo. His organization ought to be HIRE, H-I-R-E, which stands for Harvardites in Real Estate. The problem I have is I have no idea how in the hell you get UCLA into Aspire or real estate. But gentlemen, thank you for being here and in my support. In the interest of full disclosure, I need to tell you something about myself, and that is that I have never, ever accomplished anything by myself. In sailboat racing, I've always been in a two-person or more larger size vessel, and the skipper gets credit many times more than he deserves, or she deserves. But I have never won a race. I have never accomplished anything in love or marriage by myself, or in business, or in sports, or anything of that nature. And so I always feel dedicated and very warmly associated with all of my associates. Sometimes I'm in the lead, sometimes I'm in the middle, and sometimes, as I say, I'm in the caboose. But it's all part of teamwork. I decided early in life that I wanted to get out of business early in life into the nonprofit world. So I sold all of my business interests in 1986 to my managers, to my then managers, and just decided that I wanted to get full-time into the nonprofit world. In that regard, I maintain an office, I have an assistant, and I have probably average about a 50-hour calendar a week. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because I'm another kind of an oddball that you heard earlier tonight, and that is that I have never owned a cell phone, and I do not know how to turn on a computer. And yet, in my life, the way I've organized it, I look at what I've been involved with and accomplished each kind of 5-year period, and I believe I am more productive each 5-year period because I've fortunately been able to organize my life on my time schedule, not somebody else's time schedule. And it has been very effective to me. Now, by the same token, I understand and I applaud and I agree that electronics and internet and all these things are the future of the world. So I'm not attempting to put those down at all. It's just there are different ways of accomplishing things, I guess is what I'm saying. But beyond that, I have said for a number of years that collaboration is the future of this world. And if you agree with that, it's really the future of every single thing that we do. When I was first informed by Chad that I was getting this award, I told him that it would be at least the equivalent of the Gold Spike Award that I got from this university several years ago. It was awe-inspiring to hear his announcement, and this kind of an award in one's business career, there's nothing finer. So in conclusion, let me just say that I hereby accept this nice award on behalf of all my partners, associates, friends, family, and crew, because they're the ones that made this happen. Thank you very much.
So continuing with Malin's message of collaboration, I think one of the wonderful things about Stanford University is that the Stanford experience doesn't end when you get your diploma and you walk down Palm Drive and leave campus. And I think that one of the great hallmarks of this university is the appreciation that it has for those of us that are alumni and the network that it provides us. And joining us tonight is someone I'm also very grateful for being here and supporting us, and that is Howard Wolf, the president of the Stanford Alumni Association. I'd like to invite Howard up to the podium now to share a few remarks. And Howard?
It gives me great honor this evening to join you here to fet these two wonderful Stanford citizens and titans of the real estate world, Malin Burnham and Henry Sagerstrom. I must tell you that when I graduated from Stanford as an undergraduate in 1980, I was the only one from my graduating class to go into the commercial real estate business. And I went with what is now C.B. Richard Ellis, what was then Coldwell Banker Commercial Real Estate Services. I was hired by someone that some of you may know, Angus McLean, who ran the San Francisco office. And he at the end said, "Do you have any fears or trepidation?" And I said, "Well, I don't see a lot of Stanford people from my class going into real estate." And he said, "Don't worry, let me share a list with you." And on that list were two gentlemen that we've talked about a lot tonight, Malin and Henry. And it gave me comfort that I was going into the right path. So it's thrilling to be here while they're honored in this real estate setting. It also gives me great pride to be here and honor Spire. When Chad came to me 3 years ago with this idea, being a former real estate guy, I obviously was excited about it, but we had seen these sort of clubs sort of germinate and then fail before. In the history of the university, we've had clubs since 1892. But I must tell you, we have 275 clubs of different sizes and natures all over the globe. We have never seen anything like Spire. We have never seen a club grow as quickly. We have never seen a club attract the level of alumni involvement at the highest level that Spire has done. It really has been something to behold. And not only as it relates to what it does for Stanford's alumni, but what it is also doing, and we'll hear a little bit about this later on, for Stanford students, and I will dare say for the future of the university as it thinks more broadly about how to approach this industry that is so important to our country. So it gives me great pride to be here and join you in the accolades for Malin and for Henry. I thank you very much for coming. And for the alumni in the crowd, I thank you so very much for coming back to this very special place where I hope the Stanford spirit was born in you as it was in me. Thank you very much.
So dessert will be served now. We'll get some sugar in you to keep you going for the rest of the evening. And we'll then continue with the last two components of the program, focusing on the present of real estate here at Stanford and the future. So enjoy your dessert. We'll be back with you momentarily. So if we want to prove the strength and the longevity of the Stanford connection, I have 3 pieces of empirical evidence to present. And those 3 pieces are the 3 of us standing up here right now. Patrick Orozco, who's one of my fellow board members and the vice president of Spire, who's one of the original founders of the organization, as is Andy Wahlberger, who now serves as our executive director. All 3 of us met about 19 years ago across the street at Branner Hall. We were all in the same freshman dorm, and Andy and Patrick were actually roommates for a year. And here we are almost 20 years later at the helm of an organization that's focused on bringing Stanford people together in our industry and as alumni. And I just think that I wanted to have this one moment to have a kumbaya moment with my brothers from Branner and celebrate Branner, celebrate Stanford, and celebrate our connection as alumni.
Thanks, Chad. Now in the program, I'd like to highlight some of the current curriculum that's available at Stanford. Earlier today at the Spire Real Estate Convention that many of you attended, Honoree Malin Burnham issued a challenge to Spire, and that was to take our industry from being one that's reactive to one that might be predictive. He called this the Real Estate Metrics Research Project. And at its heart was the observation that real estate is informed by a variety of inputs. He mentioned that collaboration was the future of the world, and certainly we believe that, and that is the foundation through which we intend to advance a real estate curriculum here at Stanford. Now, many of you may know that there's already a particularly good foundation in real estate education here at Stanford, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But I wanted to highlight some of the different departments that are all represented here tonight, and that would be architecture, civil and environmental engineering, urban studies, sustainability and energy management, the business school, the law school, the design school, the Woods Institute, which is charged with solving many of today's global environmental issues, and the Center for Integrated Facilities. Now I'd like to acknowledge some of the staff and faculty, professors that are here with us today. I'll start with two of my former professors, Jeff Birdwell and Mark Kroll, who teach real estate development coursework that very much informed my career as a real estate developer. And as I announce you, if you could please stand, that would be fantastic. Professor David Kleiman, who teaches a mixed-use design course in an urban setting. David will be joining me up here on stage in a moment. Nelson Cohen, who teaches engineering economy. Hey, Nelson. Bob Joss, Philip Levine, who teaches real estate transactions. Mike Theoharis, Andy Sharp, Michael Lepic, and Nori Gerardo-Leitz, who teaches managing real estate investment portfolios. If you could all please stand so we could acknowledge you, that would be great. Thank you. There seems to be an emerging interest in real estate on campus. It's growing already. We discovered that the law school had a land use club. GSB has a real estate club. And through collaboration, we've encouraged Aspire, which is Association of Students Promoting Innovation in Real Estate. I'd like to also have the students in the audience please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you. And in looking into the current programming here available at the university, we found quite a compelling embodiment of Spire's approach to real estate curriculum through a project called the Solar Decathlon. And I'd like to welcome project manager Derek Oying to please join me on the podium. And is Rob here? And Rob Best, could you please come up? Rob is the design manager. Now, Derek is a double major in the civil engineering and architectural design. Rob is a PhD student in sustainable design and construction. And they're led by their professor, David Kleiman. And I'll give the podium to Derek, who will introduce you to the Solar Decathlon.
Do we have the slides? Thank you guys very much. I want to extend a thanks to Spire, to the organizers of this event, and to everyone here who has contributed to this community. To give you guys a little bit of a description about what this competition is, Stanford is competing in the 2013 Solar Decathlon. It's an international competition sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy. And what happens is every 2 years, 20 collegiate teams design and build 1,000 square foot net zero homes, which will be on display to the public this year, next October in Irvine, California. The purpose of the competition is really to demonstrate solar and energy efficient technologies available on the market today in student-built prototypes which perform a variety of household tasks and center on a coherent design narrative. Can we see the next slide? This is the competition from 2009. Next slide. And the competition from 2011. And the next slide. Here is an understanding of kind of the public interest in the project and the fact that it's student-built. You know, a year ago, we were following the 2011 competition, and some of us thought, why hasn't Stanford ever competed in the solar decathlon? On such a renowned international stage like this, shouldn't we be representing one of the most innovative and most sustainable places in the world? So we submitted a proposal for 2013, and in January, we were selected as one of 20 teams to compete. And the next slide. We not only, in our first ever entry, we're not only going to showcase some of the most exciting technologies in the Silicon Valley, but we're also going to tell a very uniquely Stanford story about how we envision the home of the future to be. Next slide, please. This is the team in its kind of first founding. We found that residential construction is one of the slowest innovating industries in America, and a lot of that is an engineering and process-oriented problem. Next slide. So early on, we were looking for a way to introduce industrialized processes into the residential sector. Next. And the next. Our solution is the core, in which we take the most complicated systems of a home and put them into a modular unit in which you can mass manufacture in a factory, ship it anywhere around the country, and integrate it into a variety of home designs. Next slide. Here's just some video of construction students, some of who are in this room right now, building a prototype of the core. We like to think of it conceptually as the muscle, brain, and heart of a home, and with an emphasis on customizability, scalability, and a cradle-to-cradle life cycle. Next slide. What we really want the public to see once we're at the Solar Decathlon competition is that Stanford isn't just making a single one-time showcase house, but we have a much larger idea than even the Solar Decathlon itself, almost a new kind of business model for how we should develop sustainable homes. Next slide. Next slide. And next slide. These are all students that are involved in the project. And the next slide. There are actually over 100 people involved in this project, undergrads, graduate students, and PhD students, faculty from almost every major in the School of Engineering, alumni, mentors, and corporate sponsors. And actually, if you're a student in the room right now and you're involved or have been involved in the Solar Decathlon project, could you please wave your hand or stand? The project itself has about $1 million budget, and it's really due to big companies like Facebook, Intel, DPR Construction, and organizations like the Carpenters Union that have really stepped up and joined the team as supporters. And what we're really interested in right now is to be kind of part of this new community and see kind of support from the real estate side as well. Next slide. At this stage, we're getting close to finalizing the final design, and we're preparing to build actually in March. And it's actually going to be built on campus. We have a temporary site, which is next to the original Terman building site. And anybody in this room is invited between March and September of next year to actually visit the site and see what we're doing. We'll probably be building outside. And what's going to happen is in the end of September, we're going to put it on trucks, ship it down to Irvine, and the location is the Orange County Great Park where the Solar Decathlon is happening. And for 2 weeks, there's going to be public exhibits and tours, and all of you guys are invited as special guests to attend there. Next slide. We're launching a huge publicity campaign online. Next slide. And next slide. And to get the word out about our project, our vision about sustainable homes. And we hope that individuals and corporations can help in any way possible to make this happen. Next slide. One of the things we really hope to do actually is after the competition, bring the home back to Stanford and put it on a permanent site. And that's just kind of a fascinating idea to us as students that even before we leave campus, we might be able to have a permanent mark on this campus and have a real net zero functioning building here. So what would be great is then maybe in a year, we come back to this banquet and present a first place win, and also this kind of satisfaction that with the help of this community, we made that happen. So thank you very much.
Now, as the first step in what we hope to be a long process of encouraging and supporting this organization and project, Spire is issuing a $2,500 sponsorship. And I'd like to thank all of you for your hard work. Soon we'll be reaching out to each of you and your respective corporations for requests that you also help. You heard that they had a goal of raising over $1 million. $2,500 is really meant to kickstart that effort. So we'll be following up with an email that will contain information about how you can follow up and seek more information on this particular project. Thanks. Now I'd like to introduce a couple recent graduates that are having an immediate effect on our industry. Brendan Milstein. Brendan was a Harvard undergraduate, Stanford MBA, and earned a Master's of Science in Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. He graduated from the Emmett Interdisciplinary Program on Environmental Resources, which was endowed by SREC member Dan Emmett. And Brendan will tell you what his work entails.
Hey, I'm Brendan Milstein, and I was planning to be funny, but I think I'm kind of the last thing between us and bedtime, so I promise brevity instead. I started GSB, so business school here, just about the time Dean Joss was leaving, but also just before the Knight Management Center was created. So it's kind of the worst possible time. But I was very fortunate in that I was able to take a lot of classes in real estate, both within the business school and also across the street at the engineering school. So I did a joint program in the Emmett IPER program. So since graduation, or actually about 4 months before graduation, I started a company called Carbon Lighthouse. And Carbon Lighthouse makes it profitable for commercial and industrial buildings to eliminate their carbon footprint. So emphasis on the profitable part of that, but also emphasis on the easy part of it, actually. We've discovered that's key. One of the very first projects we did really demonstrated a hole in my knowledge of real estate. So I'd had all these fantastic engineering classes here at Stanford on how exactly buildings work, how everything functions, and great ways to reduce net rent and reduce operating costs and management costs of a building. So we had this great project, the Travelers Building in downtown Sacramento. It's a 1908 hotel. It's a historic building, and it was converted to office space in 1980. We found this awesome project. We were going to cut utility costs by $1.50 a square foot. It was going to increase NOI by $1.50 a square foot. The investment was 40 cents a square foot. We were all excited. We went to the building owner. We said, okay, here's how everything's going to work. Get excited. And they said, this is great, but we have base years, and all of those savings go to the tenants, but the 40 cents a square foot of investment is on our side. So we're not going to do the project. And the EIPER program, despite all of its engineering prowess, really didn't have any classes on lease structures. But this is where the Stanford community really came in handy. So we had this great project which we wanted to do, and no way to do it because of a lack of really my understanding of lease structures. But 5 or 6 calls and a couple weeks later, we came up with a mildly innovative way of financing the project so that not only would the benefits accrue to the tenant, but also all of the costs could be passed through as CAMs and an increase in base year. So what ended up happening was the tenants got all of this great value from the project, but the building got a lot of press and ended up in the Sacramento Bee for, it's demonstrating its environmental leadership. And it was really the Stanford community that enabled this project and enabled, me and the rest of my team to make all these calls and really understand more about this non-technical aspect of real estate that ended up driving the project. So I'm incredibly thankful and grateful to be a part of this community and a part of really a powerful force that's been able to make our lives better. So I'm an energy guy by training. I'm kind of an accidental real estate guy. But energy use in this country, 70% of it goes to real estate. And I'm very, it's the buildings that are using the energy. And I'm very passionate about finding a way to make it profitable to reduce our exposure to foreign fuels. And I've ended up in this real estate community, thanks to Stanford, that's really enabled me to do this. So I'm in danger of breaking my promise about brevity, so I'll stop here. But I want to leave one comment. Mr. Berman, you're talking about opening up the UCLA chapter. So I would propose it's called Acquire for University of California in real estate. But thank you. Thank you all for your time, and couldn't be more excited to be part of this community.
One other recent alumnus, Forrest Flager. Please come up. Forrest earned a BS in civil engineering at Stanford, went on to MIT, studied mechanical and structural engineering, took a one-year term at Harvard School of Design, and then graduated as a PhD student in the civil engineering department. Working with Martin Fisher at the Center for Integrated Facility Engineering. So, Forrest, tell us about your work.
Thanks, Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to honor Malin and Henry, two pioneers in the industry. And now I'm with a startup company as well. It's called Vanavar Technology, small startup based in San Francisco. The company originated out of Google. The problem we were trying to address was that in the next 30 years, we'll be building as many buildings as we have in the last 2,000 years, and we didn't feel that the current delivery and design process was really scalable. Only 10% of the buildings that we're building today are actually designed by architects and engineers to be sensitive to climate, to their users. And so we're trying to address that through technology by making an open platform for building design and collaboration. The basic tenet is that we make it immediate so that when you are contemplating changing a different design, you understand how that building is performing immediately in terms of energy performance, in terms of cost. And we're hoping by doing that, by really cutting down that latency, that we encourage designers and even people without that background to be more experimental and to rethink new design and development projects. We're working with several owners and developers in the area, and I'm really thankful for my Stanford experience and leading me to this opportunity to continue my passion. I was part of SIFI, as Patrick mentioned. This group is unique in that it's industry funded, so we bring together industry, architects, engineers, building owners, and contractors, and we collaboratively try to address problems. So I worked early on with companies like Autodesk and Disney and the Beck Group. I think what I'm very excited about with Spire is that they can bring more of the owner and development community to Stanford. I think that there's a wealth of technology, a wealth of engineering, but the understanding of the business and the finance side, as well as the legal side, is something that I think is not really that readily available to a lot of the engineers and designers at the school. So I look forward to the work that they're doing and look forward to supporting it any way I can. Thanks.
Now I'll return the podium to President Chad Hagel, who will tell you about the future of real estate education here at Stanford. Thanks so much.
Thank you. We'll actually take a quick pause because the next segment will introduce you to a number of the students here at Stanford and the initiative that they've really fostered and that we've thrown our support behind, the REIP, the Real Estate Innovation Program. And so we'll take a pause, invite the students up on the stage, we'll set up the panel discussion, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. Thank you. So the first person that we'll talk to this evening is Kyle DeThomas, sitting here next to me. Kyle, you're actually two students in one here at Stanford, as I understand it. And I also understand that we almost lost you to USC, unfortunately. Tell us about your dual degree program and how that's going so far and what your experience has been.
Thanks, Chad. Yes, I'm doing a dual degree at the law school and with the engineering school. In my prior experience as an Air Force space engineer, I got really interested in the way the law affected construction and development, and I was looking for a program that would allow me to blend those two disciplines. And USC did have something in place, and knowing that real estate is a local and networking-based, relationship-based industry, I thought it might be a really great place to go. Obviously, I didn't choose USC. Ultimately, the strength of the law school curriculum, reputation, and the flexibility to try and cobble together my own joint degree brought me here, and I got the added benefit of having that sustainability focus that we've talked about a couple times tonight in the engineering program, so I feel really lucky to have been able to do that.
Fantastic. So Brian, as we go down the line, Brian, I understand that you did an internship this summer, but I heard you didn't have a very good boss to work for. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about your internship and how your studies here helped improve your internship experience and vice versa.
Sure. So I actually worked for Chad this summer, you couldn't tell. And it was great. I was first introduced to Chad through a guest lecture at one of the courses I had here at Stanford. And then I was introduced to the Spire internship program through Anthony Clark. And, Spire, their second pillar is university outreach. And so this internship served as a great way for me to use the skills I had acquired in the classes here at Stanford, and then also learn new skills that provided context for the classes I'm taking now. For instance, I took 4 real estate-related classes here in my first year, and all of them had many common threads, one of them being site analysis and more specifically zoning. Fast forward 2 months into my internship, and I was in Texas presenting to a planning and zoning commission about a real retail development project. And while I did bring my cowboy boots, which gave me some confidence, I was still very nervous. And much of the confidence I did have and my ability to present came from the classes I had here at Stanford. This quarter, I'm actually taking a class within the law school. It's real estate transactions, and I had actually had exposure to things such as letters of intent and purchase and sale agreements during my internship, which has now provided context for the material I'm learning here at Stanford.
Continuing down the line, Justin, being in the GSB, there's obviously some representation of real estate at the GSB inside of the classroom, but also a lot going on outside the classroom. Share with us the current real estate environment at the GSB.
Sure, thanks, Chad. So GSB students in general kind of cover 3 different areas. One is our folks who are interested in real estate but spent time in their career before school doing something else, and so are looking to transition into the industry. Second is people who have kind of an interest from a family perspective. Their family is involved in real estate somehow and they want to learn more about it. And the third are folks like me who were in the industry before, came back to business school and want to return to the industry after school. And so what we've done is create a community around that. We have a real estate club, which is pretty well attended by folks who are interested in real estate. We have speakers come in. We do treks to cities and meet with developers and investors and real estate management companies in San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York. And we also look to have other more niche involvements in different sort of subsectors like green building, infrastructure development, and international real estate as well. And then we also, as a business school, compete every year with that other school across the bay on a development competition where we basically get a parcel and we have to figure out how to develop it from the ground up. And I am happy to say that I was on the team last year. I am unhappy to say that we have lost every year for the past 6 years. And what we're really looking to do this year is improve it by really more alumni outreach. And so that kind of starts with all you guys. And Spire was generous enough to sponsor us last year, and we're looking for even stronger partnership this year so we can bring the golden shovel back to Stanford.
And what do you see as opportunities for enhancement or improvement of the current program within the GSB to facilitate this renewed interest in real estate that you're talking about?
I think first and foremost, there's really 2 factors. The first is inter-school involvement, and so we have great resources across the street, as we call it, at the engineering school and the law school. and some of the other schools on campus, like the architecture program that's being started up here. And so if we can facilitate involvement with those schools, that'll help us learn more and become better educated folks when it comes to real estate. And secondly, it's really alumni outreach. So one of the reasons that we've struggled in the Golden Shovel is because Cal has a great real estate program they've had for many years and have a huge alumni base in the area. And we just have to make those 3 extra calls to get in touch with someone, and it just makes it a little more difficult. So the extent that we get more alumni involvement, both at the GSB level and at the university level, that's one of the things that Spire's been great about helping us with. That'll really facilitate more interest and learning at the GSB.
Great. Anthony, you've obviously graduated from Stanford. You moved on to Walton Street. Tell us about your educational experience here at Stanford, the strengths and weaknesses, and how well it prepared you for moving into a career in the real estate industry.
Absolutely. Well, I just graduated in June of 2012, so just a few months ago, and I'm freshly minted on the job. Gonna hopefully go through with my first deal in the next few weeks here, so I'm very excited about that. Throughout my education and career, I actually did my undergrad and master's degree in engineering at Stanford. And through that master's program, it afforded me the opportunity to take many real estate classes, not only in the engineering department, but across the street, the other direction at the business school. And throughout my educational experience, I got to meet all 3 of these individuals here. But one thing that I did mention that I really did encounter was the fact that in order to pursue all of these classes and get to take in all the real estate experiences, you really have to be an entrepreneur and go seek out those experiences. And I think all 3 of the people beside me can attest to that. Whether it's something as simple as different grading criteria across the board in all 3 areas, or just the number of forms or paperwork that it takes to maybe take a class in the business school, you have to really want it. And I think all 3 people to the right of me really attest to that. But I think there's an opportunity to achieve kind of a higher level of collaboration.
And now that you're on the other side and you look back at students who are graduating from Stanford, what's your perspective about their preparation for the real estate industry and coming to work for you?
Well, it's funny, being only a few months out of school, I already had the opportunity to sift through resumes for our next group of analysts. And it's just very apparent looking at the difference between a resume coming from maybe Wharton School or Cornell with their hotel school, having both a real estate experience from an educational standpoint and then also access to internships and more career development in the real estate area. And that even shows itself when they come in for interviews, having a better knowledge and a better acumen just day one.
Maybe you can now walk us through how your experiences have translated and inspired you to look at the REIP and to work with the gentleman you see here on the stage and others to formulate this concept of the REIP, and tell us what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 3 people to my right here and myself have been tossing the idea back and forth of a real estate innovation program. And what that really means is taking in the accounts of someone from the business school, engineering school, and law school, and to create something that is much greater. And Mr. Burnham spoke to it better than I ever could about how important collaboration really is to achieving larger goals. And by no means would I put a real estate program up with finding the cure for cancer, but I think that through collaboration, both these 3, with incorporating all 3 of these schools, we can achieve 2 goals. The first being innovation. I mean, Stanford prides itself on that. And we can innovate in a number of ways. Sustainability, as Derek talked about earlier, is a common trend in the industry that we continue to work towards. And another one is risk management, as we've seen throughout the latest downturn that has affected us all. And those are just 2 simple ways that we could continue to innovate. And then secondly, I think a real estate program would allow a way for students to be better prepared day one. Just citing the example I mentioned earlier with the Cornell School applicant against a student without that real estate program. So at Stanford, there's actually a number of classes that already exist. On the next slide here. And I just picked out 6 for example, here. 2 from the 3 schools that we mentioned, but there's a number of more that we could fit in this bucket, but there just really isn't some hard, fast rules or ways to access all of these classes, and putting together a real estate program with some more clear guidelines and ability to access all the amazing students and faculty at this university could really afford the opportunity to achieve some of the larger goals that this program, I think, aims to achieve.
Fantastic. And to pick up from where Anthony has left off, Spire has been exposed, thanks to these gentlemen you see on the stage, to the concept of the REIP. And this speaks directly to the third pillar of our organization, as I outlined it before. And so, as a board of directors, we met a couple of months ago and voted to throw our support of the organization behind this initiative 100%. This is not our baby. This is not our project. This is not our program. This is a student-driven initiative here at Stanford. It's grown organically from these students from these different departments and schools, and we as an alumni group, Spire, pledged to stand behind them and to make this a reality. As you look around the room, Patrick has introduced you earlier this evening to the faculty that are represented here this evening. In meeting with the Office of Development, in meeting with other individuals who have been successful in forming multidisciplinary research and education programs here at the university, like Professor Buzz Thompson of the law school, who is the head of the Woods Institute for the Environment. We have been given a roadmap, and that roadmap is, 1, start with the students. Check. 2, get the faculty enfranchised. Find champions among the faculty who will raise their hand and say, this is something that I believe in and something that I want to see happen. We're starting to do that now. Professors like Nori Gerardo-Leitz from the GSB, Nelson Cohen, Mr. Kleiman, all of the individuals that you see here this evening who are represented by these students who have taken their courses and been inspired by their courses to pursue careers in real estate. The next step, go talk to the deans. Dean Jost was here tonight. He gave me some insight into how to approach the current dean of the GSB. We'll be meeting with the deans of the law school and the other schools that you reference here and working to advance that ball forward. And then finally, show me the money. The school, the university, will respond if there's a financial backing and if there are faculty members who stand up and say, we want to take advantage of this financial backing to pursue research and to create educational opportunities within this domain. So as Spire moves forward, and as we conclude this evening, the message that I want to deliver to you is that I believe we have done a phenomenal job in the growth of this organization from 0 to over 1,200 in building the SREC and reaching out to alumni around the country and around the world. We've accomplished alumni professional networking. And reaching back into the university, giving students like these opportunities professionally, we've accomplished university outreach. Now it's time for us to turn our perspective as an organization to our third goal and our third pillar, which is educational program development, and to get behind these students and support them 100% in pursuing these initiatives here at Stanford. And now is the time to do that, and I pledge to you that it will happen. You've heard praise, you've heard commendations for our organization, for its growth, for the standard that we hold ourselves to within Spire, but you haven't seen anything yet. Because my personal pledge is that all the energy that I've put into helping to build this organization and to get it to where it is today is just the start. And I see my role as the president of the organization to step out of the role of just running the organization, hand that over to our volunteer leadership, those of you in the room, as well as our administration, and to commit myself personally 100% to this initiative. And this is what I'm going to dedicate my time to, and it will be a reality, and that is my pledge to this organization. And I ask all of you in the organization to support us as well. Stand behind us, stand behind these students, find a way to help. Because there are 2 things that I've learned in running a volunteer organization. I learn every day at the helm of this organization. One is, there is no such thing as a small contribution. If one of you raises your hand, anything you're willing to do The answer is yes. We will accept that help, and we will be grateful for that help. The second thing is, if you're asking someone for help and they're not responding, you're not asking for enough. You have to create a big vision, a big goal, something that is almost the realm of the impossible in order to truly inspire people to step up and make a difference. And so tonight, I'm telling you that we're going to raise $10 million, we're going to start an endowment, and we're going to form a chair and support this REIP initiative that these students are advancing. And that will happen under my tenure as president of this organization. So I thank you very much for joining us this evening. I thank you for honoring the past of Stanford real estate. I thank you for taking the time to engage and learn about the present. And I thank you for committing yourselves to helping us support the future. Thank you very much and have a very good evening.